So anyway, you just kind of have to go with the flow of what somebody wants to take on. Somebody might want a brand new house that has an electrical outlet every 3 feet. Well, you're not going to get that if you buy an old home. And so these are the kinds of things that you have to point out because they're crucial to your daily life.
My name is Kevin McIntosh, and this is The Closing Table, where we talk to experts about their experience in real estate all across the country. Let's go. Welcome to The Closing Table. I am your host, Kevin C. McIntosh, and joining us on this episode, ready to give us some knowledge, real estate professional Alison Alfredson. How you doing, Alison?
I'm wonderful. Thanks so much for having me.
No, thank you for accepting our invitation to be here on The Closing Table. We appreciate it. So let's get to know you as a person and individual before we start getting into real estate. So if you don't mind taking 60 seconds or less, tell us a little bit about yourself outside of real estate.
When I'm not doing real estate, I am a full-time mom. And I am the kind of mom who is driving to every sport imaginable and band events. I have a daughter who goes to Michigan State University, and she's in the Spartan Marching Band. So that is a really huge part of our lives. My husband's a professional musician. And so we both have very interesting careers, have to balance that. And I love to garden. So
nice. Full life.
Yes.
Life. I love it. Full of things to do. Staying out here active. I love that. Yeah. And I love that you started off with saying that you are a mom. So we got to respect and honor that too. So love it. All right.
I did that for 10 years. So for 10 years solid. Yeah. Full-time mom. Yeah.
Nice. Beautiful. All right. So let's get into what you do as a professional, your real estate business, right? So we all have our own system, our own kind of business, quote unquote, when it comes to real estate. So describe your real estate business. And if you're able to tell us how long you've been licensed, what you consider your specialty and niche, and any notable achievements.
Okay. So I got my license 5 years ago. January. So I just celebrated my 5-year mark. I'm really excited about that because I know a lot of agents don't make it that far. So I did. So goal number 1 accomplished, right? I work in the greater Lansing, Michigan area, and I have a tendency to work with people who are dealing with estates with their family, mostly members who have passed away. And I work with first-time homeowners. It's all residential. So I wanted to say that too. So I'm not into the commercial aspect of the business. And, I'm a listing agent too. So I pretty much do half and half.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. So you said everything from estates to first-time home buyers. You've done all this within the span of 5 years. Congratulations on your 5-year anniversary, by the way.
Yeah.
And you also, I like to touch on that because for one, that 3 to 5 year mark for most real estate agents seems to be the toughest. And if you are able to make it over that 3 to 5 year mark, that usually means you have a great system in place and you are headed for just longevity and success from that point on. As long as you continuously make your adjustments. So I really wanted to congratulate you on that, on your success so far.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
So
plus working through the pandemic also. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Gosh. Right. So I started in 2019 and interesting year, and then shut down. And Michigan was definitely one of the states that closed. And so I ended up selling a house, never going to the house, never meeting the client in person. They took their own photographs. We sold it within about 6 weeks, and I didn't even get to see myself taking a picture of the sign. I couldn't go. So I felt like that was a really important thing, that I was still able to do my job from home 100% and to make that client feel comfortable. So that was a good time. And my business year after year has actually ramped up. So
beautiful. Yeah. See, I think that was a great time for a lot of people to start, new endeavors, because it kind of puts you through the test also. Like, this is literally a worst case scenario. And if you can survive and thrive through this, the rest should be a cakewalk for you, if you ask me theoretically. But whole nother subject. So, yeah.
Well, one thing I wanted to mention is that I think that, people would say, oh, this is such a great time, especially after the pandemic when, interest rates were low and people were making a lot of money on their houses, which could be great, but I was seeing it I felt so bad. If I was a listing agent, I felt bad telling all these other agents that they lost. I,
Right.
I felt so bad for their clients because I also worked with buyers and we kept losing, and we would do the best that we could, whether it was with the lender that you have, or if you have any money to cover the seller's closing costs. I mean, whatever, we were throwing everything at it. And so, we would win eventually, but it could have been after 9 offers. And then to be on the listing side, I mean, there was a time when we had 12 offers and 2 of them could have been identical. I mean, how do you choose, right? And
Exactly.
so my heart broke. I would just, I don't know. I mean,
What a
I don't know
time.
what else to say. It's just,
I know.
it wasn't easy. And
Yeah.
it wasn't easy for us. And people kept thinking that we were just making commission hand over fist. But not if you were working with buyers. It took a long time. And
Nope. Yep.
so
Facts.
I was there. I was there to help them through it. And some people had to bail. And then some sellers were as happy as you've ever seen them. And it was a roller coaster for
Yeah.
sure. And I'm
I
actually
know.
glad that it's leveled off some.
I know. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Random question, real quick.
Yes.
This could be quick. Is the pandemic officially over?
I think so. I think
Okay.
so. I mean,
Okay.
to me, we are back in business. More people are working in the office. We had a big company staff meeting yesterday where 35 people are coming and standing at the buffet and getting their breakfast, And so to me, if people are willing to come together like that and I'm able to go into my clients' homes and they're not masked up, we are good to go.
Okay, okay, just making sure. I feel like I should ask more people in general that, because like, is that the consensus? I feel like we're only 3-4 years removed
Yeah.
now, so is it? But okay, great. So we're moving forward. We're taking care of business. We're being successful. We're thriving. We have a system. It's working.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Let's talk about where we're doing this and where the system is working at your geographical market. Can you describe it for our audience who may have never been there?
Sure. Okay. So we consider it to be Greater Lansing in Michigan. And Lansing, if you don't know, is the capital city of the state. And then next door is East Lansing, which is Michigan State University. So we have the GM plant in Lansing. So we have a huge auto industry. They're making the Camaro and one of the Cadillacs. And then we have all the state workers and the politicians, and they're in the mix. And then we have the educators at the university, and then all the students. And we have a huge influx from overseas, people from all over the world who come to East Lansing to go to school. They're working on their doctorate or they're doing some sort of sabbatical. So we have so much going on within, say, a 20-mile radius around the capital that there's like incomes all over the place. It's affordable to live here.
Correct.
And everything is within like a 15-minute drive. And I know that people within, like, say in Arizona, they are planning to drive an hour to wherever they need to go. And for us, it's like, oh, I got a showing in 10 minutes. I can leave the house.
Right.
So that is what is a huge benefit, which makes it affordable. And because people don't have to go so far outside of where they live to work. Yeah.
That was a perfect way to describe it, Alison, because I say that being from the Metro Detroit area and living in I know it. My commute used to be like 45 minutes to downtown Detroit, So now here you can get from one complete opposite side of town to the other. And like you said, 15, 20 minutes.
Yep.
15, 20 minutes. It's easy. So I get it. And then like you described, some of the biggest employers in this region, Michigan State University, government jobs,
auto industry,
GM, GM in the auto industry. So yeah, great place for employment, great low cost of living relative to other markets. Great place. Well said. I couldn't have said it any better, Alison. So let's talk about the economic side of it, the numbers side when it comes to real estate. What are we looking at? What information do you have in regards to your market?
Well, it tapered off a little bit, but we are still on the upward climb.
Okay.
It's exciting because there have been more offers over asking. People are closing for over the list price, and the percentage varies. It could be from 3% to 12% higher, and depending on the quality of the house and say the school district, that has a lot to do with it too. I think that there was we just had this staff meeting and we were talking about the numbers, and I don't have them in front of me, but there were probably only 20% of houses that sold within 2023 that sold under list price. 20%. So that's not very much. That means that
Correct.
the economy is still going forward, and that's great news for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's great news if you are a seller, if your property is selling above list price, and it makes it a little bit more difficult still for you as a buyer if you are out here, and it's still a little bit more competitive. Now, a
It
lot of
is.
people wait for those interest rates to lower, but not knowing when those interest rates lower, you're going to have more fish in the sea out here looking for more homes to purchase also. So
Right.
it's you got to kind of get in where you fit in, depending on what works for you. But I still like to point out the fact that the Michigan is a state, in the Lansing region within Michigan is still relatively cheap or inexpensive compared to other markets. Pay attention.
For sure. So you could buy, you wouldn't even have to flip it, but you could buy a really good starter home and it would probably cost you $85,000. And there are houses that go up to $1 million, not too far from where I am. Not, yeah, so there's everything in between, but I think that our median price point is probably in the mid to high 200,000. And but
Easy.
I live in an old neighborhood. My house was built in 1909, and our neighborhood has seen ups and downs over the years. These houses need a lot of repair, but I know that our home value has gone up about $50,000, and that's a lot for us, so a lot of people are moving into this particular area. It's near downtown Lansing, and they're kind of going back to their roots. They're like, oh, we love those old houses, and or the 50s ranches are getting really popular again. So I like to see, the market just changes. People's interest changes.
Yeah. They show different a ranch style house on TikTok a bunch of different ways. All of a sudden, that's what everybody wants. It's the new influence. So
yeah,
I get it. And in the 5 years that you have been servicing the greater Lansing area, can you recall a story where you did help some first time home buyers? Your most memorable story of helping first time home buyers. Can you talk about it?
Most memorable. That's a good one. Let me see. I'm going back. Okay, so I just recently closed with a couple that were living in Texas, and the wife, she was recently employed at Michigan State, and she had family who lived here, but they had been living out of state for a long time, and they were not able to come up to see houses. So I would go tour the houses myself, and I would take video and I would send it to them, and then they'd ask me to go back, and I was writing offers, sight unseen, and it was really stressful for them, but at the same time I feel like I was really able to do a deeper look at these homes than they would have probably done if they were doing it themselves. Because you walk in and it's just like, oh, this place is great, and then they're kind of overlooking some things that were big red flags for me being in so many houses. And I would say, whoa, this floor is really tippy or what have you. So finally, after losing many offers, I feel bad, they finally were able to find something. They moved in, and she started her new job. So I think that for them, knowing that I was able to help them from thousands of miles away, that they were able to get into their first new home, and they're super excited about it.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's a good point too, because sometimes as first time home buyers, I can see how you just get so blinded with just the the general aesthetics of what you see.
Yeah.
But you don't go a little bit further than that, trying to figure out why certain parts in the floor creaks, or find out, why there's painting over this area. Maybe it's covering up some mold or something like that. It's just different things that you would have the eye for that first time home buyers would not.
Yeah. I'm looking at wiggly handrails, I'm looking at, that looks like a water line that's, not supposed to be there in the basement. Or, you can pull up some carpet and say, oh, geez, you can take the time, because you're actually not talking to your client. It's like I'm not an inspector, but I can go in and kind of feel like I'm doing an initial inspection on their behalf. And I would sometimes at the end of the video say, this is not for you. Like, this is, you told me that you don't want to do any repairs, or they would have to be minimal. This isn't the one, so take my word for it. And then
there you go.
Moving on. So
there you go, doing that work. I love that. Yeah, trust it. Gotta appreciate that. But when we are moving forward and elevating to different types of clients beyond first-time home buyers, those who maybe have had their property for some time and now they're trying to do some renovations, some upgrades, repairs. They need some type of professional, someone who's been through that also, to can kind of give them. And you are currently going through a renovation project or recently went through one. Can you talk about your experience, the hurdles, if you don't mind, and talk about how you kind of related to clients, if so?
Sure. So as I mentioned before, our house was built in 1909. And when we bought it, it was a piece of junk. I mean, it was so bad, but it's what we could afford at the time.
I feel it. Yeah,
because we bought at the height of the market, at least then. And what year was that? 2003. So we overpaid for this house. And it was like we were sold on the doors and the floors. And that's about it. We're just like, this is a beautiful house. We want to bring the house back. And so room by room, as we could afford it, this wasn't like remodel the whole house, but we just picked the most important room. And it took 17 years to get to my bedroom. I mean, to be perfectly honest, it's just little by little. And so as we tear out walls and we have to deal with plumbing, or there's lath behind that plaster, that's falling apart. These are the kinds of things, because Lansing is an older city, that I can spot those issues and I can let them know. If you start getting into that, it is a can of worms, be prepared for that. Or I point out the beautiful things, like, you need to pay attention to how amazing this molding is. Like, they don't make that anymore. You cannot get a house that looks like this. And so I try to let them embrace some of the beauty that they might not even be aware of.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. Yeah. And it's so good that you have that experience of renovating and repairing and things like that. Because like you said, you can relay that to clients who more than likely will have to put in some type of work.
Oh, for sure.
Some type of work eventually, whether they're doing it themselves or they pay someone, you still want them to kind of know about it. And like you said, this might be outdated. They don't make this anymore. They don't make it like this anymore, type thing. And that happens a lot nowadays, especially since the pandemic. A lot of our supplies and how they make supplies have changed and shifted, especially since like, what you say, 1909? For sure.
Our baseboards are like this tall,
Yeah.
So things that you need to appreciate, like that door is solid oak. They don't make that anymore. And so people either they want that or they don't want that, and so anyway, you just kind of have to go with the flow of what somebody wants to take on. Somebody might want a brand new house that has an electrical outlet every 3 feet. Well, you're not going to get that if you buy an old home. And so these are the kinds of things that you have to point out, because they're crucial to your daily life. And so anyway.
No, good point. Thanks for adding that too. I do want to add the fact that you are, or at least TV show that you host, is Emmy nominated. Is that correct? Congratulations.
Thank you.
First and foremost.
Thank you.
So let's talk about it. Can you talk about the TV show? Can you talk about how you got into it? A feature that you did, the Old Town General Store. Can you just talk about a little bit everything, please?
I will, for sure. So I was approached in September to be a host, or at least entertain the idea of being a host on an Emmy award-winning show, or Emmy nominated, I should say, uh, award-winning show. And it's called the American Dream TV, and it streams primarily, but it's streaming on all the major platforms. It's going to be on YouTube TV, and it's on Tubi, it's on the Travel Channel, places like that. So it's not a reality show, it is a lifestyle show. It's a TV show about real life. And so the goal is for the hosts to go into their own community and interview people that have brought something to the community. I've interviewed Pat Gillespie with Gillespie Group, and he was one of the massive developers for Lansing. The Stadium District is the brainchild that he came up with, transformed downtown. And he just keeps going farther and farther. My most recent interview was with Ria Van Atta, and she has the Old Town General Store, and she just celebrated 10 years in business. And again, a small independent business that made it through the pandemic, huge.
Yeah.
So she specializes in Michigan-based products. And so people typically in Michigan, I mean, we travel a lot in our own state, and people like to buy goods when they go up north, say, well, she carries those things here in mid-Michigan. And so she's trying to make that accessible to people who are residents, that you don't have to be a tourist to want to go into her shop. I mean, she carries pasties and wine and cherry products, you know, things that are really the heart of Michigan.
Correct.
So anyway, and we can also feature real estate. And so it's just it's a little bit of everything.
Yeah, it sounds like a great work. I love to see that, you know, it's giving you an opportunity to highlight certain things in the community, certain people, businesses. Can you talk about the benefits that you feel like it gives to your clients, to the businesses, to the community overall? And how can someone be featured if they can? How can they be featured on the show if that's possible?
Oh, sure. No, they certainly can. We interview for future quarters. So a resident could have their home featured, whether it was for sale or not, it just to represent the kind of housing that we have here. Typically, it would be a higher end property that would be featured if it was listed for sale. But I just was in a conversation with somebody who lives in one of the renovated fire stations. And I thought, oh, that would be great, because that is something that happens here in Lansing. As they rebuild fire stations, the old ones close down. And so they're turning them into private property, which is really cool. So those are the kinds of things that are just bring interest, so people know more about our community. You know, I want to highlight Old Town. I want to highlight Rio Town and downtown, because the idea is to make it attractive so people will want to move here, or at least frequent those businesses, the baseball stadium, all of these things.
Yeah, I agree. No, that's some good information, because there are some interesting properties around Lansing I see. I'm like, that doesn't look like a traditional house. And now that you say it, I'm like, it does look like a fire station. I feel like I know a property that you're talking about, and that makes me want to watch the show now, because like I want to know about this property. I've always drove past it and you know, had thoughts about it. Okay, so that's beautiful. So 5 years in real estate, beautiful milestone, especially considering the high success rate that you technically had. What are some strategies or lessons that you found more valuable to thriving in this industry, especially since the pandemic and everything else has happened?
I have tried to absorb, really lessons from other agents. And so we have very seasoned agents in our office, where when we first start off, we are assigned a mentor, and then we kind of glob on to other agents who we see are successful. And I see how they work, and I see how they talk to their clients and how they talk to other agents. And I think that having relationships with other agents is really important to your success, because this is kind of a cutthroat business. And in a lot of markets, agents don't really like each other because they think that they're high competition. There's enough to go around, and people are attracted to different kinds of personalities. And so what might not be a good fit for me is a good fit for somebody else. But at the same time, you are going to be in a relationship with somebody on the other side of this transaction. And so at the end of the day, we all want the exact same thing. We both want our clients to be happy and to get to the closing table and to be done. So I just try to make sure that that aspect of my business is a success, because I don't want an agent to not want to show one of my listings because they have a bad opinion of me. I have been on that side where I'm like, oh gosh, if I have to deal with this agent, I don't even know. And I never want anybody to have that feeling about me. So I think that benefits my clients too, because then I don't have any animosity with somebody else, and just like it can put a damper on the entire transaction. Does that make sense? I mean,
no, 100%. I feel like we can all relate to that just in general work. Like, you know, you don't, it makes it hard to go to your day to day when you have to deal with people in these attitudes. But regardless, you have to deal with different people and their attitudes.
Yes.
You know, and to learn from people who are more experienced is a great way to kind of get through that type of thing. Learn from their mistakes, the successes, their failures also. But yeah, 100%. Like I don't want people to associate my name with, oh my God, Kevin, like him, like, what do you mean by that? Never mind, I'll tell you about it later. I don't want that to be attached to my name, so I get it. But would you say that's one of the most challenging aspects of real estate? Or what would you consider one of the most challenging aspects of the entire real estate industry? And do you have a story that kind of exemplifies this?
For me, the most challenging, honestly, is working with buyers, because you just never know how it's all going to play out. You have people who are really excited to dive in, and maybe they don't qualify for as much as they thought that they would. Or maybe they get a job relocation that is like completely out of the blue, and poof, they're off your radar entirely. You know, you get ghosted by people for who knows why. I have had a client pass away while we were looking for houses, not on my watch, but the day we were supposed to go. I had already been working with them a lot, and it was just a sudden passing. And so, of course, I was like heartbroken beyond belief. But then you're just kind of like, the rug is pulled out from under you. It's just, you know, and you don't want to make it about you, but I mean, these are just things that happen. And I mean, cold feet, there's all sorts of reasons. And so you can't count your chickens before they hatch. You know, I know some people are like getting the calculator out. They're like, oh, this person qualifies for this dollar amount, and so therefore this is how much I'm going to make in 6 weeks. It's like, oh, don't do that. So that is probably the most challenging thing, is just hoping that your next paychecks, you know, that they're consistent, and that these kinds of negative situations don't impact your entire career.
That's a really good point. That's the whole hustle and bustle of the real estate industry, though. But you know, it's the give and the take. You know, some people see it as, oh, you get to live this glamorous life, you get to live on your own schedule, but they don't know you have to work and hustle, put that behind, because you don't get those consistent hourly salary paychecks that, you know, everyone else gets. So yeah, and then you can only control what you can control. You know, those other outside factors that are come into play that are, you know, throw a monkey wrench in your whole system. You know, you just got to find a way to get through it. So I get it, and my heart goes out to you in the hustle that you have for the position. But before we get out of here, Alison, if you don't mind, I'd love to get all of my guests' thoughts on this. Do you have a movie, book, quote, or philosophy that, you know, may have changed or shaped your life personally or professionally that you can share with us?
Right. You know, I don't want this to sound like a negative philosophy, but my mother always said, nothing in life is fair. And so I really feel like that is, I mean, it's just like what I was talking about with the buyers. You know, you just have to say, you know, tomorrow is another day, almost like Scarlett O'Hara would say. I'm just going to move on. You know, I can't take everything personally. Yeah, that stunk, but moving on. And you just have to kind of keep a positive attitude, and life is not fair. And for buyers, sellers, or me.
I get it. No, well said, well said. And that kind of ties into what we said before. Like, you can only control what you can control,
Right.
and that's what you need to worry about. Don't worry about the uncontrollables. But and then another thing is one of the 4 agreements that I like to hear. You don't take things personally. You just keep it moving. Just put in your work and just keep moving. Everything's gonna happen. Some people believe everything happens for a reason, but you just keep moving and head towards your goal regardless. But anyway, we thank you so much, Alison. Did you have something else you want to add to it?
No, this was really wonderful. I appreciate being asked to be on the podcast.
Absolutely. We appreciate you so much. At this point, if you have any last words or want to tell people how to reach out to you, please, the floor is yours.
Oh, sure. Well, my name is Alison Alfredson. It's kind of a tongue twister, but you can reach out to me if you want to. You can text me directly, 517-488-5347. And again, I work in the greater Lansing area. I'm with Berkshire Hathaway, Tommy Raines, and East Lansing. I have social media, so you can just type my name into any platform and you can find me. Facebook, Instagram, what have you. And you can also watch my segments on the American Dream TV.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Alison. We appreciate it. For our YouTube audience watching, if you got into this point in the video, do us both a favor, hit the like button, subscribe, and share the content. And if you are listening on Apple, Spotify, or any other podcast platforms, do the same. Give us a like, 5-star rating, and subscribe for our latest content. And Alison, I'm also going to leave our audience with a question before they leave. So this is for you. Have you ever done any renovations to your property? And if so, what were some of the hurdles and obstacles that you had to overcome? Don't tell us now. Leave it in the comments below. Besides that, we'll talk to you next time.
Bye. Thanks.